Do you ever wonder if you're paying too much in taxes each year? Would you like to learn more ways to legally reduce your taxes and keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket? Today we're going through a composite case study of actual ways that physicians are paying too much in taxes and real solutions that can save you potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. Welcome to Wealth Matters for Physicians, the channel brought to you by Altfest Personal Wealth Management that provides physicians with key investing and personal financial planning strategies. For 40 years, physicians have relied on Altfest to help them achieve their financial independence and future that they deserve. We'd be honored to help you. My guest today is Dennis Huergo. Dennis is a Director of Client Services at Altfest and has the Certified Financial Planner, the Chartered Financial Consultant, and the Chartered Life Underwriter designations. Well, Dennis, thank you very much for being with us today on Wealth Matters for Physicians.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So let's get right to it. Today we're discussing a case study of the ways in which physicians are paying too much taxes and some potential ways to solve things.
Yeah.
So Dennis, before we get into the tax situation of the Smiths, can you give our physician audience a little bit of a summary of who these physician Smiths are?
Yes, absolutely. So we're working with two physicians in their mid-40s. They have three children, 4, 6, and 8 years old, and they were making a healthy living in New York. They live in NYC. They were making over $700,000 a year, which puts them squarely in the top marginal tax bracket, and certainly on the radar for New York State and New York City local taxes as well.
Sounds good. Thank you. Great. So Dennis, can you tell us what was the tax situation that the Smiths were experiencing when they first started working with Altfest?
Yeah, Mike, their situation was less than ideal. As we often see with a lot of our physician clients, they're great clinicians and they have a lot of training in that regard, but unfortunately sometimes they read something and then they try to apply it to themselves, but not knowing that it wasn't, maybe they weren't the audience for which that article or which that content was made. And so they had some inefficiencies in their tax situation. So actually it might be easier if we look at the slide right here. So again, $700,000 household income. They were in the 37% tax bracket, had paid over $190,000 in federal taxes, over $45,000 in state taxes, and even in New York City taxes. So if you were in any location which charges a local taxes, you also have to watch out for this. But in New York City, they were paying an additional $27,000 in taxes. So that's nearly $200,000 in taxes. I think they withheld like $150 and they still owed over $60. Now, we're not even taking into account here the additional Medicare taxes on income over $250,000 if you're married filing jointly. And given all that, they were making non-deductible IRA contributions and doing ostensibly a backdoor Roth conversion on that. And then they were contributing to Roth 401ks and Roth 403bs at work up to the max, which, you know, if the audience is unaware, those contributions are still included in your taxable income. You're paying taxes on that today and not when you withdraw the money later. And we'll examine at a later time why that might not be ideal for two attending physicians who are doing well for themselves right now.
Thank you very much. That's a nice overview of what we encountered when they first joined us.
Yeah.
So Dennis, now that you've set the stage on where they were, what were some of the strategies or things that we found that actually were solutions to help save them on taxes?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we certainly wanted to match their goals of, you know, planning for a nice early retirement and being able to be financially independent and just ensure their family was well taken care of with some of the tax strategies, which is really where financial planning does its best work, is aligning some of the more esoteric tax topics with the real life practical solutions. So if you look at the slide, you'll see what we found for them. By switching their 401k and 403b contributions, they were able to make $22,500 in contributions each, which has brought them up to $45,000 in additional tax deductions, which they did not have before. They also were not contributing to their health savings account, and they did have access to a high deductible medical plan. So what that meant for them is that was an additional $7,750 that they can contribute as a family. The number in 2024, by the way, is going to be higher, is closer over $8,000 that they can contribute. They also also were not utilizing a dependent care FSA that was made available to them, so that was another $5,000 in tax deductions. They were not using a medical FSA in which they could put in about $3,000 each, so that was another $6,100 in contributions. And they were commuters, right? They were working in different boroughs, and so they were commuting one way and the other, for which they could have utilized their company's commuter plans, which had a max of $3,180 each, bringing that up to another $6,360. So altogether, we found them over $70,000 in new tax deductions, which translated to conservatively about $25,000, almost $26,000 in tax savings.
And that's per year, if their situation stays the same.
Oh, yeah. So we were trying to be humble here. This slide made us very happy. We were certainly happy presenting this information to them. But just in 10 years, that's $260,000 that we could have saved them in taxes.
Excellent. So that's really going to help them towards their early retirement goal, or educating their children, or however they want to spend their money.
Exactly.
Well, actually, since now we're speaking about taxes, many of our physician clients sometimes wonder, should they be making post-tax Roth-related retirement contributions, or should they maybe be making pre-tax traditional retirement account contributions? Can you give our audience just some general guidance on this Roth versus traditional, pre-tax versus post-tax?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite short questions that has a really lengthy answer depending on who you are and what stage of your career you're watching this video in. So the idea between Roth and traditional is essentially to pay the least amount of tax over your lifetime. Notice I said over your lifetime, not just this year. So what does this mean? Well, if you're an intern or a resident, or you're a fellow, and you're in your lower earning years, it might make sense to make Roth contributions, because odds are you're going to be making more money, or you're going to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement than you are as a resident. Now, if you flip the script and you move it forward 5 years, and now you're an attending, you're doing very well for yourself, and you're making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, or $700,000 like the Smiths are, you're likely not going to be in that same tax bracket in retirement. So why would you pay taxes at a 37% bracket to then take them out in retirement at a 24% bracket? It just would not make sense. So when your income is higher, you want to skew towards a traditional contribution so that it's removed from your taxable income. It lowers your adjusted gross income. And you can take that money and pay taxes on it later on in life when you're in a much lower bracket. So that deferral works really well in your favor if you're in a higher bracket.
Thank you very much. So Dennis, building on what you were saying in the last question, can you show us an example of how the amount of taxes that a physician needs to pay can vary greatly over time, and that in turn can cause whether it makes sense to contribute to a Roth or a traditional retirement account can also change greatly over time?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about the financial life cycle of a physician, right, it's not just a straight line up, right? There are points in time in which you might have decreased income. So perhaps if you take parental leave, or you take a sabbatical, or you go back to school for whatever reason, that can often result in you going into a lower tax bracket. Now, if you shift more towards retirement, a lot of physicians don't just retire right away. They become locum tenens. Maybe they decide that they want to teach at a university. And so what that'll do is, while they're still working, give them an opportunity to do something called a Roth conversion, which is, now that you're in a lower bracket, you can take part of your traditional IRA or traditional 401k, pay the taxes on a specific amount of it, and bring that over into a Roth bucket. And what that'll do is allow that Roth portion to grow tax-free over time, which again, you'll have paid the taxes at a lower bracket than what it will have been in retirement later on. And so the idea here is, if you actually look at the slide, usually around the time you retire, if you stagger your retirements, you're going to have a much lower tax bracket, and at that point is a great opportunity for either a Roth conversion or a Roth contribution to any of these accounts.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep.
So Dennis, now you've really whet the audience's appetite for this, traditional and Roth, and you've talked a lot about the benefits of traditional when you're in high tax earning years. Yep. Can you give an example of when a Roth conversion can make a lot of sense for a physician.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so this is a fairly complex conversation. So what I'll do is I'll throw up a couple of slides here that'll show what the Roth conversion opportunity can look like. And so let's say you're 55 years old currently and you want to retire at 65. We're always going to plan for a retirement out to age 99 more or less, so that we have some good security there. But let's say you have $1 million right now at 55 years old in an IRA, a traditional IRA, and that's growing at, let's say, 7%. Now, currently, you might be earning $250,000, but in retirement, your taxable income is going to be much lower. It's going to be about $150,000, right? So that's a pretty big difference in tax rates right there. And again, we'll keep that same growth rate at 7% there just for consistency. Now, on the next slide, you'll see what these Roth conversions look like. So we're not just going to pull out all of our balance and convert all of it because it'll push us into the highest bracket, which makes no sense, and we'll pay the highest amount of taxes possible on that money. So instead, what we'll do is if we want to convert $500,000, we're going to break that up over 5 years, and we're going to kick that off at around age 66. And so what you'll notice is every year from 66 out to 70, we'll convert an additional $100,000 on top of the income that you're taking, $100,000 in conversions, which will be treated as distributions. You'll pay the taxes on it at a lower bracket, and then it'll be made to grow in a Roth account. And so the taxes that you'll pay over your lifetime on this money, if you do a conversion, is going to be $2.8 million in taxes. However, without the conversion, it'll be much, much higher. It'll be 3.3, almost $3.4 million. So that's a significant difference. And on the next slide, what you'll see is the rationale why this trade might make sense, right? If you look at the account balance, right, fast forward your life until age 99. If this traditional IRA, if you had done a conversion, the traditional IRA balance would only be about $700,000, almost $800,000. Without it, it would be $1.3 million. That's all taxable. The Roth balance with a conversion is $2.8 million. That's considerably better without compared to zero without the conversion. And then the taxable account with the conversion would be $2.9 million. That's where we get the money to pay the taxes from. It's from that taxable account. Without the conversion, it'll be $5.2 million. So at the end of your life, right at the age 99, you'll still have the same $6.6 million balance.
Right.
But here's the crazy part. The tax savings. You saved over $500,000, and that's just during your lifetime. Now, the consideration here is also in part legacy. So traditional IRA balances are still taxable to your heirs when they want to withdraw that money. And so a lot of physician families that we work with have children and grandchildren who are also physicians, meaning they're going to be forced to withdraw this, whatever it is, $1.3 million that you leave them if you don't do a conversion, at the highest tax bracket. So you're giving Uncle Sam and New York City and New York State, upwards of 40% of whatever it is that you leave them if you leave behind traditional IRAs for your children. So this conversion helps you shift that into a Roth account, which is not taxable. So that would be $2.8 million that your kids or whoever is going to inherit without having to pay taxes on it. And importantly, the taxable account also gets a step up in cost basis. So this has ramifications, not just for your lifetime, but really for your family 2-3 generations down.
That makes a lot of sense, and especially at Altfest, since we've been working for 40 years serving physicians and their families, we often have multiple generations of a family under one roof. So it's very nice that we're doing the planning for, like, let's say, the pioneer family, the wealth building family, and then we're able to help to make sure that those wealth building exercises trickle down to the generation next and the generation after that.
Absolutely. Have you ever heard of that concept, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, well, part of the issue that causes generational wealth to be diminished is tax inefficiency. So if you address that right there in just one generation, that 40% delta between tax or no tax is huge.
Well, that's excellent. So not only will you enjoy this, but your children will enjoy this, and your grandchildren will also thank you very much. Well, Dennis, you have given us a great amount of tax saving solutions and strategies and pitfalls to be aware of in today's video. I think you've given our physician audience a lot of great ideas to think about. Thank you so much for being on the channel today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you'd like to discuss the information explained in today's video, receive a complimentary review of your investment portfolio or a retirement readiness analysis, or discuss any other personal financial planning areas with an Altfest professional at no obligation, please contact my colleague Jesse Freeling at 212-796-8732 or by emailing Jesse at his email address, which is also in the description of today's video. If you like today's video, please click the subscribe button below and hit the bell icon to receive notifications each time we release a new one. If you think that a fellow physician would find this video interesting or useful, please feel free to share it with him or her to help them strengthen their personal finances. Lastly, as always, if you have topics you'd like us to cover, questions you'd like us to answer, like or dislike certain things that we're doing, or have any other feedback, we'd love to hear from you. So please give us your comments in the comments section below. Well, that's all for now, physicians. Thank you so much for being with us in today's video, and I look very much forward to being with you in the next one. Until then, please keep optimizing your finances, or let us help you if you'd like. It would be our honor.